So my Spanish is not very good.
Bueno,
I
mi
am
español
learning it,
no es muy
but I'm
bueno,
not going
apenas
to
lo estoy
subject anybody
aprendiendo,
to that
pero
torture today.
no
So I'm
voy a
going to
torturar a
conduct
ninguno
this
de ustedes
in
hoy
English.
con mi
My
español.
apologies,
Así
given
que
that I am in
voy a
Colombia.
hacerlo en inglés.
One day, I hope to be able to
Me
deliver
disculpo,
something like
ya
this
que
in
estoy en
Spanish.
Colombia, pero espero
So-
algún día ser capaz de hacerlo en español.
First of all, I'd like
Muy
to
bien.
thank
Primero que todo,
FASECOLDA
me
for
gustaría
allowing me to
agradecerle
speak
a
here today.
FASECOLDA
It's
por
certainly an honor and a
permitirme hablar
privilege to
ante
address
ustedes hoy.
the audience.
Es todo un honor
And so what I'm going
dirigirme
to
a este
speak about
público.
today is
Y de
something
lo que
called
voy a hablar
universal
hoy es
life.
algo que se llama
They
vida
call it the ultimate
universal, que
flexibility
se
of
llama
life
la
insurance.
última flexibilidad,
And what
la
I hope
máxima
to
flexibilidad
show
en
you by the
seguro de
end
vida. Y lo
of
que
this
espero poder
presentation
mostrarles
today
para cuando se termine
is
esta
how flexible this
presentación
product
es
can be.
lo flexible que
Now,
este producto puede ser.
I know everybody's
Ahora
going to
bien,
say,
yo
or
sé
there's
que
going
todo
to be
el
some
mundo
naysayers, and that's perfectly
va a
fine.
estar diciendo,
Saying, well,
bueno,
this
y está
product
bien que lo
really, it's going to be
piensen,
challenges in
bueno,
the Colombian
este producto va a
market.
tener sus
If you are
retos en el
going to
mercado
be doing
colombiano.
any type of
Si ustedes van a
innovation in the
estar
market,
introduciendo cualquier tipo de innovación
you're going
en
to
el
be meeting
mercado,
challenges. You're going to
van a
have to take
encontrar
challenges
desafíos,
head
van
on.
a tener
That
que
is the definition of an
superarlos,
innovator
enfrentarlos.
versus a
Esa es
follower.
la definición
If you are
o la
looking to
diferencia
grow
entre un
your
innovador
life
y un
insurance
seguidor.
portfolio
Si
in the
quieren
Colombian
aumentar el
market,
portafolio de vida
you
en
need
el
to
mercado
do, in my view,
colombiano,
something
tienen
different.
que hacer desde
So
mi
the
punto de vista
definition of
algo
insanity
diferente. Entonces,
is doing the same thing
la
over and over again
definición
and expecting a different result.
de locura es
So
seguir
that's why
haciendo
you'd
siempre
want
lo
to try to do
mismo,
something different in
esperando
my
tener
view.
un resultado diferente. Por
So
eso es
let's
que les
start.
digo que debemos
The topics we're going to cover today,
tratar cosas diferentes.
we're going to talk
A
about
ver, ¿qué vamos
the
a cubrir
history
hoy
of
en mi
universal
charla?
life,
Vamos a hablar de la historia
how it works,
de este producto de vida universal,
some of the product
cómo
features.
funciona, algunos de
We're also
las
going to talk about the
características
types of
del producto.
universal
También
life.
vamos a hablar de los
We're going to do a
diferentes
brief
tipos de vida
comparison to the
universal,
other
con una
life
breve
insurance
comparación
products
con
that you would
otros
be familiar with or used
productos
to in
de
Colombia.
vida que quizás ustedes
We're
están
going to talk about
acostumbrados a ver
some
en
sales
Colombia.
applications and
Vamos a
tax
hablar
compliance
de
as well.
algunas aplicaciones técnicas y también
I'm going to have to flip back and forth a little bit because when you're teaching this product, what you'll find is when you introduce one concept, it's dependent on you learning another concept. And so there's a bit of the term that's been used in the other presentations, chicken and egg here. So you're going to see me flip back and forth a little bit just to reinforce the concepts. I will repeat some things because it's important to get some of the concepts down. And so let's proceed. So the history of universal life. So this actually first was introduced in Canada in 1971. And the impetus or the reason behind introducing this product was at the time interest and inflation was increasing. You know, of course, inflation and interest go hand in hand. Taxes were increasing, and whole life insurance just was not adequately giving people the returns that they wanted to see given the interest rate environment. There's another point that I would like to raise that's not here, and that is the Socio-Economic Times were also changing. What I mean by that is women were entering into the workforce. You now had a dual income family versus the traditional family where you only had one breadwinner. So now there was a dependency on not just one person prematurely expiring or becoming disabled or something like that. You also had to consider the woman as well in the family. The early versions did not do well. Not at all. They were terribly structured. There was inadequate training for the sales force. I want to talk about sales force training at the end. There's a few points. Once I'm done with the presentation, before I pop to the questions, I'm going to actually add a few points that I think is important that I didn't include in the presentation. I decided I wanted to put it in, but I realized that I'd already submitted the hard copy to FASECOLDA, so I couldn't do that. But they structured it originally as a combination of term life and an annuity afterwards. So instead of paying out a lump sum, you had an annuity. That's a terrible idea because annuities, unless they're structured properly, are actually taxable. You don't want a taxable event when someone's passed away. You want these money or funds to be tax-free. So, oops, I pressed the wrong button there. So what happened was, late in the 70s, people said, well, let's take another shot at this. And what they did is they said, let's restructure it more like a traditional life insurance policy, but with some flexibility in it. And let's highlight the flexibility. So this started to grow in popularity. And as of 2015, it accounts for about 14% of the life insurance premiums in Canada. It's been, if you look at the prior 5 years, it's been relatively stable as well. So let's talk about how it works.
Entonces hablemos de cómo funciona.
So universal life is an insurance policy that has two components to it. One is an insurance component, the other one is an investment component. And we're going to talk about, we're going to get into details as to what this exactly means. The investment component is called the fund value. So when you hear me talk about a fund value, that's what I'm talking about, the investment component. And the protection component, we're going to refer to that as the insurance amount. So I'm going to keep reminding you of what that means if you don't already have that. So here's where we're getting to a bit of a chicken and egg thing. So I'm sort of jumping ahead, and when I do go through a lot of the concepts, I'm going to come back and you're going to see how some of this is going to be very obvious to you. So there are two types of death benefit options in universal life. One is called option A, and that is where the death benefit is a fixed amount. I'm going to show you an illustration of them in just a moment. The other one is option B, and that is where the death benefit is actually equal to that insurance amount, remember the protection amount, plus the fund value. Another key element, being an actuary, I have to introduce this term, net amount at risk. And that's another term we're going to be using quite a bit here. And net amount at risk is equal to the death benefit minus the fund value. Again, you don't need to memorize that now, just at least you've heard it for the first time. You'll see where it becomes a little more intuitively obvious. So let's take a look at this particular graph, and it's great. You guys have the same pointer. I actually bought my own pointer in case you didn't have it. But so if we take a look here, this is an option A. The death benefit is $250,000 right across the top there. And I won't leave out the other people here. Okay, $250,000 right across the top. This here represents the fund value. Okay, that's growing over time. Oh, there it is, it's back. Okay. We're going to talk about these other two curves afterwards. Okay? Now, the main thing, there's a few things I want to point out here. So if a person expires at any point during their policy, and let's say before duration 40, okay, they're going to get $250,000. What happens at duration 40 is the death benefit is going to start to increase a bit. I know I said it was level, but it has to increase. And the reason is going to become clear later on. This is the chicken and egg part. And that is you need to have an insurance component as part of the policy in order for it to be classified as insurance. And you want it to be classified as insurance to get the tax benefit. In other words, death benefit is going to be tax-free. We're also going to see the investment income actually rolls up tax-free. So any of the investment in the underlying fund is going to not attract any tax at all until a disposition. We'll talk about that as well. Now, what you want, what a key thing here is to make sure the systems in the insurance company are compliant and do what they're supposed to do. And what I mean by that is the net amount at risk. That's that difference between the death benefit and the fund value is always greater than zero. The reason you would choose option A, we will see, is to minimize some cost to the policyholders. When I show you an illustration, we'll do that. What I'll do is I'll go through it and I'll jump back to some of these to reinforce the points, as I mentioned before. So here's option B. This is the one where the death benefit's increasing. And what you see here, this is the fund here, and this space here is always a constant. I'll do that on this side. This space here is
Este
always a
espacio de
constant.
acá
Here's the
siempre es
fund.
una constante. Acá
Again,
está el
this is
fondo.
the net amount at risk
Esta es
here.
la cantidad neta de riesgo.
The difference
Esta,
between the death
la
benefit and the fund.
diferencia
So you
entre
see
el
the death
beneficio de muerte y
benefit
el fondo. Si
is
ven, el
increasing
beneficio de
exactly a
muerte está
mirror image
aumentando
of this fund here.
exactamente como en una forma espejo de
So this is
este
also
fondo acá.
referred to as the
Esto
level
se conoce
net amount at
también
risk option.
como
So there's a
la
few terms for
opción
this
de
I want you to be
cantidad de
aware
riesgo
of.
neto
One is some people call it
constante
option B.
permanente. Algunos lo
I
llaman
have heard
opción
one
B.
company mix up the
Una
definitions and call this option
compañía
A, but generally
mezcló
this
las
is called
definiciones
option
y lo
B,
llamó opción A, pero por lo general
or the
esto es lo que
level
se
net
conoce
amount
como
at risk,
opción B,
or
o
the
la cantidad
increasing
fija
death
de
benefit
cantidad
option.
neta de riesgo, o
Those are the
la
three
opción de
terms again.
beneficio
So
de riesgo
level
que
net amount at
aumenta.
risk,
Entonces estas son las
increasing death
opciones,
benefit option,
cantidad neta
or option B.
o monto
Three-
riesgo de
three things.
neto fijo o opción B o la última que
So,
estas tres opciones.
In that
Entonces,
diagram there
en
at
este
duration
diagrama que
20,
les
the
mostré,
fund
en el
value
punto de duración
was about
40, el valor era
$387,000.
$250,000.
And the insurance protection or the
Y la
insurance amount, the
protección del
protection
seguro o la
component
cantidad
was
asegurada o el componente de protección
$250,000.
era
Therefore, the total
$250,000.
death
Por lo
benefit
tanto, el
would be
beneficio
that
total
fund
por
value
muerte
plus
sería
that
el
protection
valor del fondo
amount,
más esta
which is
cantidad de protección, que sería
$637,000.
$637,000.
So now we're going to talk about
Hablemos
product
entonces
features.
de las características del producto.
The key product features that I'm going to
Las
cover here
características claves del
are as
producto que
follows.
vamos a
The
cubrir
first one
acá
is
son
called the
las
fund
siguientes.
balance,
El primero se llama
which was
balance
that
de
fund we
fondo,
saw
que fue
in
ese
the
fondo
picture.
que vimos
Remember
en
that
la
fund I
imagen, ¿se
showed you?
acuerdan? El
And
fondo
again,
que
we'll
les
come back to
mostré,
what the other
y ya
curves mean in a minute.
volveremos a ver qué es lo que
The
significan
interest
las otras
credited,
curvas.
how is the
El
fund
interés
growing?
acreditado,
The
cómo
cost of
creció el
insurance,
fondo,
that's the
el
cost
costo
for
del
the
seguro,
insurance
o sea,
protection, the
el
insurance
costo
amount.
por la cantidad asegurada, la
Administrative
protección del
expenses,
amparo del
that's
seguro.
your charge you
Gastos
want to cover your
administrativos,
the
o sea,
expenses with.
los cargos para poder cubrir
Withdrawals,
los gastos,
surrender charges, and
retiros,
premium holiday. These are
gastos de
where we're getting
retiro
into
y
flexibility.
un holiday de la prima. Esto es lo que estamos poniendo en esta cantidad.
So the fund balance.
Entonces veamos el balance del fondo.
Here is the critical difference between
Acá
this
vemos la
product and
diferencia
any other
crítica
type of
entre
life
este
insurance
producto
product.
y cualquier otro producto
The
de
fund
seguro de vida.
operates like a
El
bank
fondo
account.
opera como si fuera una
Money
cuenta
goes
bancaria.
in,
Entra
money
dinero
comes
a
out.
ella, sale dinero de
The
ella.
money going in
El
is
dinero
going to be
que
the
entra en
premiums
ella va a ser
that
las
the
primas
policyholder
que
pays.
el asegurado paga.
The interest credited on the
Y el
fund, we're
interés
going to get into
acreditado
exactly how
en
the
el
interest is
fondo,
credited.
ya veremos exactamente cómo es que se
And what's
acreditan los
coming out
intereses. Y lo
are
que
those
sale
charges,
de
that
esa cuenta
administrative expense
son
charge
los,
and
cargos
something called
por
the
gastos
management expense
administrativos y algo
ratio,
que se llama
MER
la
for short. It's the spread on the
relación
assets.
del spread sobre los activos, o sea,
The term
de
for a
gestión
product which is
del
transparent, so the
activo.
policyholder is
Entonces,
going to see
el
all of
asegurado
these
va a ver
charges.
todos estos cargos.
The term for this is
Y el
called
término para
unbundled.
esto se llama unbundled,
So if
o
you ever hear
sea,
anybody say it's an unbundled
desempaquetados. O sea,
product,
si oyen de
it
un
means that you
producto
see
unbundled
every
en inglés,
charge
quiere
versus
decir
what you
que
would see
vemos no
in
un
your
paquete
typical life
unido
insurance
todo,
product
sino
right now
todo
where you charge
individualmente,
one
no como
premium
se ve ahora,
and
donde se
everything is
carga
buried
una
in.
prima y todo está como oculto,
The calculation,
enterrado en
and I'm going to
ella.
come back to
El
this
cálculo,
calculation
y ya
after we
volveremos a
go
este
through all of the
cálculo
components.
después de ver todos los
So again,
componentes,
you
es
start
así.
with your
De
account
nuevo,
balance from the prior
empezamos
period,
con el
and the prior
balance de
period
la
is the
cuenta
prior
del
month.
periodo anterior, que es el
These
mes
account
anterior.
balances need to be calculated
Estos,
every month
saldos hay que calcularlos
because
todos
people
los
will be
meses en
interested
estas
in
cuentas,
seeing
porque la gente
what
va a
their
estar
policy is
interesada
doing
en
every
ver
month.
cómo
Plus,
le
you
está yendo
need
su
it to make
póliza
sure
mes
you're
a mes,
compliant from a
además de que se
tax
necesita
perspective.
para asegurarse de estar en cumplimiento desde el punto de vista tributario.
Okay, so far it looks like a
Okay,
smart bunch
entonces
because
hasta
I
ahora
usually
veo
can
que es un
sense
grupo muy
question marks
inteligente
on
porque
people's
por lo
face, and I don't
general
see any
veo
yet,
como
unless you're
caras
hiding it very well.
sorprendidas en el
So you
público,
start
pero
with
esta
that
vez no lo
account
están haciendo,
balance
a no ser que lo
from the
estén
prior
contando muy bien.
period.
Entonces empezamos con el saldo de la cuenta
You
del
add
periodo
interest.
anterior,
We're going to go
le
through every
sumamos
one
el
of these
interés,
components.
vamos a ver cada uno de
You
estos
add the
componentes,
premium they pay.
agregamos la prima que
You
pagaron,
subtract the cost of insurance charges. That's the
restamos el
insurance
costo de
protection
cargos
charge.
por seguro, o sea,
You can
el
subtract
cargo de
expenses.
protección del seguro,
Any withdrawals that
restamos
come
los
up, you're going to have to
gastos,
take that
cualquier
off the
retiro
account
que pueda haber,
balance.
eso lo tendremos
And
que
then you
quitar
get the
del saldo
account
de la
balance at the
cuenta,
end, and
y
you're just going to
tenemos
roll that
entonces el
over into
saldo
the
de la
next
cuenta al
period.
final del periodo que pasa automáticamente al siguiente periodo.
So let's talk about
Entonces hablemos
the big one.
de lo grande, acá,
Interest
de lo importante,
credited.
los intereses que
How
se
do you
acreditan.
credit
¿Cómo
interest
se
on this
acreditan
account?
intereses a esta cuenta?
How you credit it actually
¿Cómo se
depends on the type of
acrediten?
universal life
Depende
product.
del tipo de
That's
producto
another
de
section we're
universal
going
del
to be
que se trate,
covering. So
que
this is
será
the
otro
part I was
sector
saying
que
about
vamos a cubrir.
the chicken and
O
egg,
sea,
where I'm
acá
I'm
volvemos
sort
a
of
lo del huevo y la
foreshadowing
gallina.
on
Estamos
some
un
of these
poco
things that I'm
como
speaking about.
dejándoles
And I hope I'm
ver
speaking
algo de lo que vamos
slow
a
enough
estar
for
viendo y
the
espero estar hablando lo
translators.
suficientemente
You're good? Good.
lento
Because
para la traducción,
I'm from Trinidad
porque yo
and
soy
I
de
speak as fast as
Trinidad
the Colombians
y
speak.
hablo tan
So
rápido como los
I've been told I
colombianos,
have to slow
así que
down.
me dijeron que tenía
So
que hablar pausadamente.
there are some
Así
instances
que
where the
hay
investment risk is
ciertas
borne by the
situaciones
company,
en donde el riesgo
and
de
in some
inversión
instances, the
recae sobre
investment
la
risk
compañía
is
y hay
actually
veces donde el
borne by the
riesgo de
policyholder.
inversión lo tiene
So you're going to
el
see, as a
asegurado o el dueño
company,
de la póliza.
it's going to
Entonces,
depend
como
on
compañía,
what you want as a
verán
strategy.
que
And it
dependerá de
also
lo que
depends
queramos
on
tener
the
como
culture.
estrategia y dependerá también
For
de la
example,
cultura.
in
Por
Asia
ejemplo, en Asia
and the Middle East,
y en el Medio Oriente,
that culture generally does not
esa
like to
cultura,
take
por lo general,
investment risk.
no le gusta
So you're
asumir
going to
riesgo de
structure a
inversión.
product. We're going to
Entonces,
show you a
uno
product that
estructurará
you
el producto,
structure
veremos
where
un
you
producto
assume
que sea
the investment risk.
estructurado con el riesgo de inversión
The other one I spoke about was the management expense ratio, or
adaptado
the
a la
MER
Asia.
for short.
Lo
It's a
otro
term
es
that
el
is
riesgo
very
de
common, certainly on the
exposición o
English side.
MR, que se usa
And
muchísimo
what
en
that is
inglés
that is
por
where you really
relación
make your money
de
on this
gastos
product.
de gestión. Ahí es en donde se
Especially
obtiene
if you're an
rentabilidad de ese
insurance
producto en el
company
MER. Sobre todo si
or a
somos una
financial
compañía de
services firm
seguros
wanting to
o
get
una
into
firma de
wealth
servicios
management.
financieros que queremos
You know, speaking to
estar
any
en
one of these people, the first thing they will tell
gestión
you
de patrimonio.
is they
Lo
want to have
primero que
control
nos
of
dicen, si hablamos
assets.
con
They
ellos, es
want
que quieren
to
el
make
control de los
money on the
activos,
spread of the
quieren
assets.
ganar utilidades
So this
sobre
is
el spread
this is
de
a wealth
los
management
activos.
tool. Again, we'll
Entonces,
talk
tenemos
about
una
that at the end
herramienta
for
de
sales.
gestión de patrimonio de riqueza, pero ya hablaremos de esto más adelante.
The next one is the cost
Lo
of
siguiente
insurance.
es el costo del
This
seguro.
is the charge
Y
for the insurance
este es el
protection.
cargo que
And
se
it's
hace por
equal to a
protección del
rate
seguro y es igual a una
that the
tarifa o
actuary is
una
going to come
tasa
up
que
with,
el actuario va a
multiplied
definir,
by that net amount of risk.
multiplicado por esa
Remember,
cantidad
net
neta
amount
de
of
riesgo.
risk
Y
is the
recuerda la
difference
cantidad
between
neta
the
del
death
riesgo, la
benefit
diferencia entre el
and the
beneficio
fund
de la
value.
muerte y el valor del
So in that
fondo.
option
Así
A,
que
which was
en
a
esa
level
opción
net
A,
amount risk,
que era la
sorry,
cantidad fija
level
neta
death
de riesgo,
benefit,
no, perdón, de beneficio
you remember what was happening is that
eh,
amount is
de muerte,
decreasing. That net amount of risk is decreasing.
permanente. Esa
In other
cantidad
words,
neta
the
está
insurance
disminuyendo. En
protection
otras
portion,
palabras, la
it's
porción de
decreasing.
protección del seguro
So
va
if it's
disminuyendo.
decreasing, it would
Y
mean
si
the
va
person has to pay
disminuyendo, significa
less
que la persona
to
tiene
keep
que
that in
pagar
force.
menos para
So
poder
remember I had a
mantenerla
comment on the
vigente.
slide
¿Se
that
acuerdan
said
que
it's
les
the
hice un
cheaper
comentario en la
option?
diapositiva que les
This
decía
is
que era
why
la
it's
opción más
cheaper.
barata? Esta
Because
es
the
la
net
razón por
amount
qué
of
es más
risk is
barata, porque la
decreasing,
cantidad neta de
your
riesgo
insurance
va en
protection is
decremento.
decreasing
La
because you have a
protección del
lot of the
seguro va en
fund is building
decremento
up.
porque tenemos al
And
fondo
that's
valorizándose,
really
está
the reason why
aumentando.
there.
Y en realidad esa es la razón
The
por la cual
rates.
funciona
Here's an
esto
interesting
así.
comment.
Las
The
tasas, este
rates,
es un comentario
that
interesante.
COI rate, cost of insurance rate,
Esta
can be
tasa del
guaranteed
costo del
or fully
seguro
adjustable.
puede garantizarse,
In
garantizarse
Canada,
o puede ser
you have to be
completamente
fully
ajustable.
guaranteed.
En Canadá uno tiene que tener plena garantía.
You will not sell
Uno
anything
no puede vender
if you're
nada
adjustable.
en
You can have the
Canadá.
greatest product in the
Uno
world,
puede tener el mejor
but once you
producto
hear
del mundo,
adjustable,
pero una vez que uno oye la palabra ajustable,
people are not going to sell it, not going to buy it.
la gente
And
se
the
aleja,
agents will not
no lo
sell
va a
it.
comprar. Y los
So as I
agentes no
said,
serán
there it's
capaces de
dictated by
venderlo.
market pressure.
Así
In
que,
a lot
como
of
les digo,
places, the rates are
esto en realidad
adjustable.
fue moldeado por la
Canada,
presión del mercado.
I'm
Y
not
en
sure
otros
if it's
países es
really
igual.
applicable in the
No
United
sé si
States.
en
I know
Canadá
there
se
had been
Canadá se
some
aplica, en Estados Unidos no
noise
sé si se
about
aplica
bringing
igual. He
in
oído algo
fully
de
guaranteed
ruido
rates, and maybe some of the people in the U.S. can comment on
tener
recent
estos productos
market
completamente garantizados.
market developments
o no
there.
sé si ustedes pueden
Now,
hablar
there's
de
two ways you can
evoluciones que
charge
se han
for
visto en el
cost of
mercado. O
insurance.
sea, hay dos formas
The
en las
most
cuales uno puede
common
hablar
way
del
we
costo del
find
seguro.
globally
Y la
is
forma
something
más
called a
común que
yearly
encontramos a nivel
renewable
global
term
es
rate.
la
It's a rate that's
tasa
going
de
to
vigencia
increase
renovable
every
anualmente.
single
O sea,
year.
una tasa
So
que va a
as the
aumentar
person
año
ages,
tras año. A
the
medida que la
rate
persona
is
va
going up.
envejeciendo, la tasa va subiendo.
Okay, I want to repeat
Ok,
that.
voy a
As the
repetir esto.
person
A
ages,
medida
the
que la
rate
persona va
goes
envejeciendo,
up.
la tasa
But
va subiendo.
Here's where I'm going to
Pero
get a little mathematical. If
acá
the
es en
net
donde
amount
viene
at
la parte
risk is
matemática. Si la cantidad
decreasing
neta de
faster
riesgo
than the rate
disminuye
is
más
going up,
rápido de lo que sube
then the
la
net
tasa,
effect is you
pues
pay
el efecto
less
neto es
for the
que
cost of
uno va a
insurance
terminar pagando
charge,
menos por
right?
el costo del seguro, el cobro que se hace por
In one particular
costo del
country that
seguro.
we know of, it
En
may
un
be allowed in
país
other
que
countries, we're not aware of
conocemos,
it.
y quizás en otros países
In
también que
Canada,
no
you are
sepamos,
allowed to
en
actually
Canadá
make that
uno no
cost of insurance
puede
level.
hacer que el costo del seguro sea fijo.
It doesn't have to increase every year.
No tiene
That's
que
a
aumentar
very
todos los
popular
años.
product.
Y es un producto
Because then you don't have to
popular,
worry,
muy
again, you
bien,
know what
muy
you're paying
apetecido,
every month.
porque uno sabe
So
lo
we're
que
going to
va a
talk
tener que
about that
pagar
as
cada
well
mes. Entonces hablaremos de esto
afterwards.
también
Okay?
más adelante.
This
¿ok?
becomes, this has its risk.
Esto tiene sus propios
A level
riesgos.
COI has its risk. it becomes something that's called lapse supported. And I know there's at least there's two people here. I gave a course, a 2-day course last week on a few topics, and one of this was lapse supported. We talked a bit about lapse supported, so they're familiar with it. What it means is if you picture premiums, and I'll try to do this on this board here. If you were doing a level COI, it would be like that, straight across. Let me use this seam actually, right here. But the real cost of insurance probably goes like this. There's a part where you're charging too much, and there's a part where you're charging not enough. The idea being that you hope that you've charged too much to fund the not enough. But when you get past that crossover point, when you get past that point where the level charge is less than the charge it would cost to insure a person for 1 year, it's actually costing you money to keep the person on the books. You would factor that into your pricing, of course, but the critical thing is if more people lapse at that particular point, you actually make more money because you get to release all of your reserves associated with it. So that's why it's called lapse supported. It helps when people lapse.
Porque ayuda cuando hay un lapse de una persona.
The administrative expense, it's usually $10 to $15 a month. This is just to cover the maintenance expense of administering the policy. But remember what I said, the big source of profit is that management expense ratio. Surrender charges. So we're going to show you, if you have enough in your bank account to cover the charges, that bank account we spoke about, the fund balance, if you have enough to cover the charges, you can actually withdraw money from the policy. Now, that is subject to tax, certainly in Canada. It's subject to tax. And we'll talk about the tax as well. But what you want to do is you don't want people coming in, starting up a product, and then yanking their funds out before you've had a chance to recoup your acquisition expenses. We're in the business of providing coverage, but we're in the business of making money as well. And you don't want to be losing money by having people withdraw too early. So what do? You actually have surrender charges. So if a person wants to withdraw their money, that money is going to be, let's say they had $10,000 in the account and they want to take it all out, the surrender charge may be in the first year, it may be as high as $7,000. You want these people to stick around. But that will drop off typically after the 7 to 10 years. Again, market pressures dictate it, and it depends on the type of policy that you have as well. Here's the critical part. We're getting into the flexibility now. Premium holiday. If you have enough in that account to cover your administrative charge and your cost of insurance charge for the next month, you don't have to pay a premium. That is a very difficult concept for some people to get. So what does that mean? It means premiums, except for one particular case which I will describe under the no lapse guarantee, premiums are not contractual. Okay? You are not obliged to pay the premium if you have enough in that fund to cover your cost of insurance and your administrative expense for the next month. And your agent, or when you call into the insurance company, they will be able to tell you that right away because you will have the systems for it. So that is critical. That's the key part. So if you take a look at some lifestyle type products, and that's what Universal Life is. It's a lifestyle product. I can tell you at the beginning when I started out, I had no money. Okay? And then I started to have money, and so I could pay more premiums into this if I want. Then I had kids. So if any of you have kids, and I've got 2 of them in university right now. Okay? If you have kids in university in Canada, it's expensive. I have no money again. Okay? So at this particular point, I might
Entonces,
want to
en
take a
este
premium
punto,
holiday
es
if I've got
posible que
enough
yo quiera tener
in
un
my
holiday
account.
de
So
mi
what
prima
some people
si
actually
tengo
do
suficiente
is
en mi
they
cuenta.
pre-fund their
Lo que
account
algunos
when they
hacen es
have the
que
money,
prefinancian
let
su
it
cuenta cuando
grow,
tienen el
and
dinero,
investment income grows
dejan que
at
crezca y que el
without any
ingreso de la inversión
tax being
crezca
attracted to it as
sin
long
que
as it stays
tengan que
tax
pagar nada
compliant.
de
We'll touch
impuestos
on that as well.
mientras estén
Looking at the time, I
cumpliendo
may
con
have
la
to
parte
speed up a bit.
impositiva y bueno, de pronto
And
tenga que
what
hablar un poco más
happens
rápido ahora, se me está acabando el
is
tiempo.
you get to
Entonces, lo
just
que
take a
sucede
holiday.
es que
And you can
simplemente
talk to your
tiene uno
agent.
derecho a
It's
este
this is an
holiday.
agent-intensive process.
Y es
It's
un
difficult.
proceso
I know
donde
there's
sí
been a
se
lot of
necesita la
talk this
gente.
morning about
Bueno,
online
hemos hablado muchísimo esta mañana
products, and
acerca de
certainly
productos
we
online.
did a
Y
lot of that when I was
ciertamente
another
hicimos
company.
mucho
But
de esto cuando yo trabajaba
Universal
para otra
Life,
compañía.
in my opinion,
Pero
and
en
I'm
el
sure
seguro
people
de
are going
vida
to have different
universal, en mi
opinions.
opinión, y me imagino que habrá diversas
I don't
opiniones
think this is an
acerca de
online
esto,
product.
no
This is an
creo que sea un
agent
producto para ser online.
driven
Es
product.
un producto que necesita
So you can
de
talk to
los
your agent who's
agentes.
going to be
Entonces
there,
uno habla con el
and that
agente
agent's
que
going
va
to
a
say,
estar
yes,
ahí
you
y
can
ese
take a
agente
holiday
nos va
for
a
this
decir,
long.
sí, usted puede tomar un
Now,
holiday o no tiene que pagar
remember
la
those
prima
curves
este
we had
mes.
before?
¿Se acuerdan
And
las
what I'm going
curvas
to
que
do
les
now
había mostrado
is I'm going to
antes?
jump back to
Bueno,
that
lo que voy a
curve.
hacer ahora
So
es
where am I?
volver a esa curva. Miremos a ver.
Just bear with me a minute. You remember this curve I was talking about? Remember I
¿Se
said just
acuerdan
focus on
de
this
esta
one right
curva de la
here?
que estábamos hablando? ¿Se acuerdan que nos enfocamos en esta?
What I want you to also now talk about is we want to talk
De lo
about
que
these
quiero hablar
curves
ahora es de
and what they
estas
represent.
curvas y de lo que representan.
And what these curves here
Y estas curvas
represent is
acá
if you are going to be
representan el siguiente.
illustrating. So that's the term
O
that's
sea,
used when you're
Si
projecting
vamos a
fund
estar
values, when you're trying to
ilustrando,
sell
o sea,
something.
proyectando
And we're
valores de
going to show
fondos,
you
mostrando la
what the
proyección
sales
de
tool
algo,
looks like
y
a
les
little
voy a
bit.
mostrar cómo es la
Okay?
herramienta de ventas un poco.
When you're projecting the
Bueno, el
fund
caso es que
value,
cuando estamos
you're going
proyectando
to project
el
it on
valor del
three
fondo se va a
bases.
proyectar con base en tres cosas.
One is what you think
Primero,
is going to
lo que
happen.
uno piensa que va a suceder.
And we'll talk about the
Y
investments in
ya
a minute. But
hablaremos
let's say
de
they're
inversiones
investing
dentro de un
in
momento, pero
the
digamos que van a
Financial Times Stock
invertir
Exchange, the UK.
en el
You
Financial
think
Times,
that's going to
en
go
la
up
bolsa,
5%?
en el Reino Unido.
You
¿Qué
talk with the
pensamos que
client,
va a
say,
subir
we
un
think,
5%?
you think
Hablamos con el
5% is
cliente.
reasonable. And the
¿Usted
client
piensa que el 5%
has to
es
have some
razonable?
type of
O sea,
education.
el
If
cliente
they
sí
don't,
tiene
the
que
agent
tener
could say, I
algo
think it's going to be
de conocimiento, de
5%.
educación. Si
And they
la gente
show
dice,
that
creo que va a ser
line
un
here.
5%, pues
But what they
eso se va a
also
ver
show
reflejado acá.
is they
Pero
show
lo
the
que van a
client, but
mostrar
I'm not,
también es,
I can't predict the
bueno,
future.
yo no puedo predecir
If
el
you could
futuro.
predict
Si usted
what all these
puede
stock exchanges
predecir
were going to do,
el
I submit
comportamiento
to you,
de
many of you
todas
would
las
be
bolsas,
retired
me
by now.
imagino que muchos de nosotros ya estaríamos
Okay?
jubilados para este
So
punto
what
de
you
la
want to
vida.
do
Entonces,
is you
lo
want
que
to
vamos a
project
hacer
this
es
on
proyectar
two
esto
alternate bases.
sobre sobre
One
la
of
base de
them
dos
is what you
alternativas.
expect
Una
minus maybe
base es lo que
2%.
podemos esperar menos un 2%.
You want to show them
puede
that
ser. Queremos
it's not
mostrarles
going to be
que
all rosy.
no
It could
todo
be
va a ser un
bad.
lecho de
And if it's
rosas,
bad, it
que
looks
puede
like
haber
that.
cosas negativas y en caso de que sea negativo, pues se podría ver así.
This one here is the guaranteed
acá
rate, minimum rate. We're going to
Es la
get to that.
tasa mínima garantizada y ya llegaremos a esto.
I think we're actually done with the product features. We
Bueno, ya
actually get into
terminamos
the
acá las
universal life part
características
now.
del producto.
So let's talk about the types of universal
Bueno,
life.
hablemos ahora de los tipos
And the types
de
of universal
seguro de
life
vida universal.
vary depending
Estos
on the
tipos
market.
varían dependiendo
And
del
this is
mercado
going
del
to
que
be
se
the
trate,
distinction is going to show
y
how
esta diferenciación
investment
nos va a
income
mostrar
is
de
credited.
qué
Remember I
manera
said
se
that
acreditan
piece
los
for the
ingresos,
fund value? So
de
just
la
to reiterate, the
inversión.
fund
¿Se
value is
acuerdan
equal to
lo que les
the
decía?
fund
Que les iba a
value from
reiterar
the
que el
prior
valor del
month
fondo es igual al valor del
plus
fondo del
interest
mes
credited
anterior más los intereses
plus
que se
premiums
acrediten más las
minus your
primas,
cost of insurance charge
menos el cargo por
minus
costo
that
del
administrative
seguro,
expense, which is typically
menos el
$10 to
cargo de gastos
$15,
administrativos, que es de 10 a 15
minus any
dólares,
surrenders. And then you
menos
get your
cualquier
fund balance at
retiro.
the end.
Y vamos a tener
Okay?
el
Remember I
saldo
said the
del
big
fondo al
thing,
final.
the,
¿Se acuerdan que
the
les
big
decía
thing
que
is
lo importante-
associated with the
lo
interest
importante
credited.
está relacionado con los intereses
So
acreditados?
there are three
Bueno,
major types
hay
of universal
tres
life.
tipos
There are
principales de
variations
vida
on this,
universal.
but
Tiene
there are
sus
three major
variaciones,
types.
pero hay tres tipos
One is called a
principales.
fixed account universal
Uno
life.
se llama la vida universal,
The other
de
one's
cuenta
called
fija,
variable
el otro se
account
llama
universal life, VUL
de
for
cuenta
short,
variable,
or
VUL,
unit linked universal
o
life.
sea,
That's the term that they
relacionado
like
o
to use the
unido a
term
la
variable
unidad,
universal
VUL,
life and
pero
unit
nos
linked
gusta
a lot,
utilizar
certainly in the
el
United States.
VUL y en Estados
And then we're going to cover a very
Unidos,
interesting one
unido o amarrado a la
briefly,
unidad,
private
VUL.
placement life
Y vamos a
insurance.
hablar
I want to be
también
clear on one
del
thing when I
seguro de
cover
vida de
private
colocación
placement life
privada,
insurance.
PPLI, y quiero asegurarme de
That
algo
is a
con
topic
hablemos de esto.
of itself.
Este es un tema en
Is
sí
there's
mismo.
actually
En
forums or
realidad,
seminars
se hacen
that are full
seminarios
days strictly on
completos de
private
días
placement life
enteros
insurance.
hablando solamente
So I'm
de
going to
este
just try to give you a little bit of a
o
flavor
seguro
as
de
to
vida
what
de
it is.
colocación privada, así que les daré
These
algunas ideas de
policies
se
are
trata.
offered
Estas
typically
pólizas
on a
se
single
ofrecen
life
por lo
or a
general
multiple life basis.
sobre una base
And
de
what I mean by
vida
multiple life
única
is
o
it could be
múltiple.
joint
Por
first to
vida
die, in other words, the
múltiple es que
benefits
puede
paid when the first
ser
person
que
dies,
los beneficios se paguen
or joint
cuando la primera
last to die.
persona
And joint
muera,
last to die is very
o
important
el
for estate
último que se
planning
muera de
purposes.
ese grupo. Y esto es
Because
muy importante
certainly in
para efectos de
Canada and a
planeación,
lot of
porque en
jurisdictions,
Canadá
even in the
y en
United
muchas
States,
jurisdicciones,
a
inclusive
lot
en
of
Estados
taxes
Unidos,
in the state
muchos
are
de los
triggered
impuestos
when the second person is
empiezan a
passed.
pagarse
In other
cuando
words, the
la
spouse.
segunda
So if the
persona
husband
muere,
passes,
o sea, el
then the
cónyuge.
wife, it triggers on the wife.
O sea, se
Some people, I
activa
will tell
con la
you one
esposa
thing,
o con
some
el segundo.
people are
Ahora, les voy a
so
decir
well
una
planned
cosa,
with their estates,
algunos
especially the really
han
wealthy
planeado
people,
también sus
that it
herencias,
can
sobre
actually
todo los más
trigger on
ricos,
grandchildren.
que puede inclusive
I was
activarse
actually
a
part of a
nivel
case
de
where we
los
had a
nietos.
joint last to die
Fui parte
that involved
de un caso
insuring
en donde
4
se
grandchildren on a joint
grababa
last to
con
die
impuestos
basis, and
al
they were
último,
ages 10 to
y
15.
estábamos
And
hablando
the
de
gentleman
nietos
wanted
entre 10
$100
y
million
15,
Canadian worth of
y
coverage.
estábamos hablando de una
So you can
cobertura
imagine what we're
de
talking about here.
150 millones de dólares de cubrimiento.
So the
de
fixed
dólares
account
canadienses.
UL,
Entonces,
again, this is
el
the one
UL
that's most
de
popular in
monto fijo
Asia
es el que
and the
es,
Middle East,
más
areas
apetecido
where
en Asia y
people
en el
don't
Medio
want to
Oriente,
take
o sea,
investment
áreas
risk.
en donde la
What you
gente
do,
se
the company
rehúsa de tomar
declares
riesgos de
a
inversión.
credited rate
Lo que se
in
hace es que
advance
una
on the
compañía que
anniversary
ofrece
of the
una
policy.
tasa acreditada
Okay?
por
So they will say, they will
anticipado.
typically put it in the
Por
newspaper,
ejemplo,
and they will
lo
say,
ponen en el
it's going to be
periódico y
4% this
dicen,
year.
va a
It
ser
doesn't
un
matter what the
4%
economy
este
does.
año. No
It doesn't matter what the
importa cómo le
underlying
vaya
fund
la
does.
economía,
This
no
is the
importa cómo le
insurance
vaya a los
company's
fondos
risk.
subyacentes. Este es el
But
riesgo
they will
de la
have in there built in
compañía
wording that says they will
aseguradora,
never
pero
declare a rate
tienen un
less than
clausulado que
1.5 or
dice,
2%.
nunca declararemos una tarifa de menos de
Okay?
1.5%.
So you remember that curve that
Entonces, ¿se
that
acuerdan de
illustration I
esa
showed you
curva
before,
de
that third
1.52?
curve?
¿Se acuerdan de esa tercera
Remember there
curva
was
que les
the
mostré en la
main one,
gráfica?
then there
¿Se
was the
acuerdan que
minus
había
2%,
una principal
and then
y
the third
luego
curve.
estaba la del
That's the third
2%
curve.
la
You're going to
tercera curva?
illustrate,
Esa
you're
es la
going to
tercera
show what the
curva.
fund
Vamos a
does
mostrar qué
on a
es lo que hace
guaranteed
el
minimum
fondo
credit rate.
con un crédito mínimo garantizado.
Those rates, of course,
Y estas tasas,
like any
estas
interest rate
tarifas,
environment,
como
varies
con
on the
cualquier
currency.
ambiente de tasa de interés, varía según la moneda.
What the insurance company chooses to do, typically
Lo que
they
la compañía
invest in very
aseguradora opta
safe
por hacer es, por lo general,
assets.
invertir en activos
I have
muy,
seen instances where the
muy
company
seguros.
will
He
invest
visto casos en donde la
in
compañía
more
invierte
aggressive assets
en
because
activos
as long
más
as they credit the
agresivos, porque
person
siempre y
4%,
cuando
they can
acrediten a la
make it, they
persona un
try to make as
4%,
much money as they
pues
can.
pueden
Some
tratar de
companies
ganar
have been
todo el
very
dinero
good at
que
it,
puedan. Algunas
other
compañías lo han
companies
hecho
not
muy
so
bien,
good. So it's a
otras no lo
risk.
han hecho
It's the
tan bien.
risk
Así
reward
que
paradigm.
tiene su riesgo, ¿no? Tenemos
So
acá
some of the
siempre el
some of the
paradigma del
examples
riesgo.
of safe assets are
Entonces,
given there.
algunas invierten
Sovereign
en
bonds,
activos
investment grade
seguros, bonos
corporate bonds,
soberanos, bonos
preferred shares.
corporativos de grado de inversión, acciones preferenciales.
The funds, and we're going to get into
Los
this, the
fondos, y ya
funds are
entraremos en
not
esto,
controlled
los
by the
fondos no están
policyholder.
controlados
For
por
fixed
el
UL and variable
asegurado.
UL, the next one,
Para
the
el
funds are not
FUL y el
controlled by the
variable,
policyholder.
los
They're
fondos
controlled
no
by the
están
insurance
controlados
company.
por el asegurado, sino
How
por
much
la
you credit them
compañía
has already been
aseguradora.
determined.
Cuánto se les
But it's up
acredite
to
ya
you how
está
you want to invest
determinado,
it or
pero ya
use the
dependerá
When I
de
say you,
ustedes cómo
I
quieren
mean the
invertir.
insurance
Y al
company.
decir ustedes, estoy hablando de las aseguradoras.
Commission is percent of
La
the annual
comisión
premium.
es un porcentaje de la prima anual.
So let's get into the more
Así que
popular
entremos
one now
entonces en
that you will
el
see
más famoso
in
que
North
tenemos ahora,
America.
el más popular que vamos a
Sorry,
ver
I
en
shouldn't say
Norteamérica.
Mexico, but I should
No
certainly say
debería decir
Canada and the
México,
United
pero
States.
sí me refiero a Canadá y a Estados
And this is
Unidos.
where various funds, and this is the variable account UL,
Esta es la
this is
cuenta
where the
variable.
funds are
Aquí es
put
donde los
into
fondos se colocan
whatever the policyholder
en
chooses.
lo
So
que
the
elija
insurance
el tenedor
company
de la
is going
póliza.
to
La
offer
compañía de
him
seguros va
a
a
suite
ofrecerle
of
al
funds.
asegurado
And let me tell you,
un abanico de fondos.
insurance companies now
Las
recognize
compañías de
that this
seguro
is
ahora
a
reconocen
competitive
que
advantage
esto es
to
una
have certain
ventaja
funds in there.
competitiva,
So they
tener
may have
fondos allí.
not their own
Pueden
funds, but
tener
may
no
have
solo
like a
sus propios
BlackRock
fondos,
fund that's been
sino
performing
un
very well.
fondo que se está
And so if
desempeñando
you
muy
ever
bien,
take a
muy
look at the
sólido.
book
Si alguna
for some
vez
of these
miran
insurance
el
companies, the
libro de
fund,
algunas de estas
the
compañías
fund
de
prospectus
seguros,
looks like
el
this.
prospecto de fondos es una cosa
It's about a
así de
centimeter
grande,
thick
es como de un
in some
centímetro de
cases.
grueso
So
en algunos casos.
the agent would then determine, okay,
Entonces el agente
where is the
determinará,
person in their
bueno,
life? If they're younger, they could be
si la
more
persona es
aggressive.
más
So it'll
joven,
be
puede ser más
typically
agresiva,
it's segmented by aggressive,
típicamente
moderate,
está segmentado en
and
agresivo,
low risk.
moderado y
So
de
you can
bajo
switch
riesgo.
the funds as you get
Pueden
older. You
cambiar
start
los fondos a
younger,
medida que la persona
which a lot of
envejece.
people here are.
La persona
You would go into an
más
progressive fund.
joven entra en un
As you
fondo
get older, you
agresivo.
switch
A
to
medida
moderate,
que va
much like you would with a
envejeciendo,
mutual
cambia a
fund right now,
moderado,
your
de la misma
investments right
manera
now.
que se
As
hace
you
en
get
los
closer to
fondos
retirement,
mutuales, a
you
medida
want
que se
something
acerca
very
la edad de
safe.
la jubilación, queremos una cosa muy segura.
So what's happened here? The
Entonces, ¿qué está
policyholders
pasando
assume the
acá? El
risk for
tenedor
the
de la
policy.
póliza asume
There
el
are
riesgo de la
no
inversión de la póliza.
minimum guarantees
hay
on this at all.
garantías mínimas en
And
absoluto
what's
sobre
credited to
esto.
the fund
Y lo que
depends
se
on what the
acredita al fondo
policyholder chose.
depende de lo que eligió
So
el
now
asegurado.
it is absolutely
Entonces
critical
ahora
you
es
illustrate
absolutamente
on those
crítico que
on two
usted
scenarios in this case, because
presente
there'll be no
dos
guaranteed
escenarios
minimum.
porque no habrá una
It's
garantía
absolutely
mínima.
critical you
Es
illustrate on
absolutamente
those,
crítico que
on
usted
those, or you show the client those
le
two bases. You
muestre
can
al
even show them another
cliente
one that's
esas dos
a third
opciones.
one that's
E
not
incluso hay
guaranteed
una
minimum.
tercera que no tiene un
Because you
mínimo
don't want to be
garantizado
subject to
tampoco, porque no
lawsuits.
queremos
This
estar
happened in
sujetos a
Canada
demandas
on the
legales. Esto
participating
ocurrió en
life side,
Canadá,
where people were
donde la
showing
gente
values
estaba
based on a
mostrando
current
valores
dividend
basándose
scale
en
for
una escala
participating
de
policies.
dividendos actuales
And they
para
said,
las
once you
pólizas
pay for
participantes, dijeron,
15
una vez
years,
que
there'll
usted
be
ha
so
pagado
much
durante
dividends
15
built
años,
up, you never
habrá
have to
tantos
pay again.
dividendos
Well,
acumulados que no va a tener
when
que
they
volver
did
a
that in
pagar
the
nunca.
90s, no one
Y cuando
anticipated
hicieron
the
eso
low
en los
interest rate
90s,
environment that you
nadie
have now.
previó las bajas tasas de interés que
And
tenemos
so all these
ahora.
people get these letters saying,
Entonces, toda
oh, you
esta
start
gente
paying
recibe
again.
estas cartas y dice, no
And that's
tiene que
because they
empezar a
never
pagar otra vez,
showed
porque
the
nunca
illustration on an alternate
mostraron
basis. So I'd like to say we were all
estas
smart enough to
alternativas,
forecast
así que
you should do it on
tenemos que
an
ser
alternate basis,
inteligentes
but that's
para
not what happened.
pronosticar, pero
It
muchas
was
veces eso no
lawsuits
es lo
that
que
actually
sucede.
prompted
Y
everybody
entonces
to start to do
surgieron
this.
demandas legales por todas partes.
The funds are controlled by the insurance carriers,
Los
we said, and the
fondos
commission
los
again is a percentage of
controlan,
annual premium.
los
now,
asegurados y la
we're going to get
comisión
into-
depende, eso, la
on time.
comisión de la gente.
This
es
is
un
the interesting
porcentaje
one,
de la
private
prima
placement
anual.
life insurance.
Bueno, otra cosa interesante
These
es
are
el
typically
seguro de
for
vida de
high
colocación
net worth
privada,
individual clients.
típicamente para
The
clientes
high net
individuales
worth
de alto
individual
valor.
client space
Esta
is
base de
another
clientes,
seminar as well.
bueno, esto es
And
otro
that
seminario
is
por sí
typically
solo,
defined
pero típicamente
as
se
someone
define
having a net
como
worth of at
personas
least
que tienen un
$25
patrimonio
million
neto de por lo menos
US.
25 millones de dólares americanos.
I know some people may say,
Sé
well,
que algunos dirán,
there's not a lot of
bueno,
those in Colombia.
no
I,
hay
you know, I
mucha
have a
gente tan
colleague here,
millonaria en Colombia, pero yo tengo un colega
Mr.
acá,
Carroll,
el
who
señor
tells me we don't have a
Carroll,
lot
que
of
me
money in
dice que
Colombia.
no
But then I
tenemos
see
mucho dinero en
Bentleys
Colombia, pero
on
veo
the road,
Bentleys en las
and I see other
carreteras
cars.
y veo
So
otros carros
not everybody's
costosísimos.
going to, I
Así
know
que
there's going to be a good
yo
portion of
sé
the
que va a
population that's not
haber
well
un
off, but there's a portion that
porcentaje
is
de la
well off.
población que está pobre,
But
pero
anyways, these
también
are for
hay
high
otro
net worth
porcentaje que es
individuals.
muy
The other
rico.
definition, some people do
Ahora, la
use
otra
50 million
definición, algunas
net worth
personas
for high net
utilizan
worth
un
individual, but the
patrimonio de
common definition is
50
25.
millones, pero la definición normal es 25
Variable
millones de
universal life
dólares.
is used here.
Se utiliza en este caso
Okay.
el seguro de vida universal
And
variable.
here's the critical thing.
Y esto
The
es el
fund
tema crítico. El fondo
isn't necessarily an investment.
no necesariamente
It
es una
could be
inversión.
anything that's
Puede
valued.
ser cualquier cosa que
So
tenga
it could
valor.
be options on a
Pueden
share,
ser opciones
shares.
sobre acciones.
It could be even a piece
Puede
of art,
ser incluso una obra de arte.
commercial real estate.
Finca
As
raíz
long as you
comercial.
can ascribe
Siempre y
a
cuando
market
usted le
value
pueda
to it,
asignar un
it
valor
could be
de
put in there.
mercado, se puede incluir acá en ese fondo.
In this case, this is the one
En este
case that the
caso,
fund is controlled by the
El fondo está
policyholder.
controlado por
not
el
by
tenedor
the
de la
insurance
póliza,
company.
no por la compañía de seguros, sino por el asegurado.
The insurance amount is
El
usually
monto
a
del
specified
seguro,
amount of
por
the
lo
fund
general,
value.
es un monto
In other words,
especificado
they
del
will,
valor
the
del
person will
fondo.
come in and
La
say, I've
persona,
got
por ejemplo, viene y dice,
$1
yo
million
tengo
worth of shares that I want to
$1 millón
pass on
en
tax-free.
acciones
We're going to
que
show you how you do
las
that
quiero
at the end.
transferir sin pagar impuestos. Le
What's
puedo
my
mostrar
insurance
cómo
amount to keep
hacerlo.
this classified as
¿Cuál es
insurance?
mi
Remember what I said at the
canti-
beginning?
cuál
You
es
want to
mi
keep this
monto de
classified as
seguro para
insurance so you get the
mantener
death
esto
benefit
clasificado
tax-free
como seguro
and the
para poder
investment
tener el
income
beneficio
is accrued
fiscal
tax-free.
o no
So you
tener
put
que
that as a
pagar
percentage.
impuestos.
So if it's
Entonces
worth $1
eso lo
million, you may
empieza
put another
como porcentaje.
$100,000
Si es
for
un
insurance on
millón,
there.
puede ponerle 100,000
And the
dólares
policy is
para el seguro.
customized for each client.
Y la póliza se diseña a la medida para cada cliente.
The commission here is
La
not a
comisión
percentage
en este
premium.
caso
It's
no es
actually
un porcentaje de
a
la
portion of the
prima, sino
management
una
expense ratio.
porción del índice de gastos de manejo.
How it works
¿Cómo funciona?
is the asset is
El
placed in a
activo se
dedicated fund.
coloca en un fondo dedicado.
It's a fund
Es
that
un
is not part of the
fondo
general
que
asset
no
fund
es
of the insurance
parte
company.
del Fondo General de
And the
Activos de
reason
la
for that is it
empresa de
gets creditor
seguros.
protection.
Y entonces tiene protección.
The fund also has a cash
El
component. Remember, we
fondo
had to
también
cover
tiene
those
un
costs of
componente
insurance
de
charges
efectivo.
and the
Recuerdan que tenemos que
administrative
cubrir los
charges, or
costos
in this case, there'd be no
administrativos de
administrative
manejo.
charges.
En este caso
They
no
would
hay
put it
gastos
all into something
administrativos,
called
sino
an
todo se
MER, and I'll
coloca en
show you
una
the
cosa que se
illustration for
llama
that.
MER.
They
Les
have
voy
to
a
have
mostrar un
cash in
ejemplo.
there as well to cover
Tienen
that.
que tener efectivo para cubrir esos gastos.
There are no surrender charges here because they own the
No
asset.
hay
And you'll see
gastos
why. We
de
typically charge
entrega porque son los
a
dueños del activo.
one-time
Típicamente
fee at
se
the very
cobra
beginning for
un
these
honorario
policies, so
inicial
you've recovered
para
all your
estas
expenses
pólizas
right
y
away.
allí recupera todos sus gastos. Con esa
You have the
tarifa que se
assets
cobra inicialmente,
valued at least once a year,
los activos se
sometimes
evalúan
monthly,
por lo menos una vez al
especially
año,
if it's an
algunas
option,
veces mensualmente, si es una
and you
opción
choose the increasing
especialmente,
death benefit option. That's the
y
one with a
se
level net amount of risk
aumenta
where you
la
keep
opción
the
de
death benefit
beneficio a
keeps
la
going up.
muerte.
Lifetime annual premiums are not
Las
typical. Typically, you
primas
just see a single premium.
anuales de vida no son típicas.
This is used as a
Y
vehicle to
esto se
maximize
usa
tax
para
efficiency. We've talked
maximizar
about
la
this.
eficiencia fiscal. Ya habíamos hablado de
So
eso.
I'm looking at the time, so I'm picking up a little bit of speed.
Estoy hablando un
So
poco
when
más
we
rápido
compare
porque
this
se
to
me
other
está
insurance
acabando el
products,
tiempo.
you
Cuando
probably see
comparamos estos otros productos
here,
de seguros, aquí
term,
tenemos una tabla comparativa.
the premiums level for a
El
specified period and
término,
increases
el
on renewal.
nivel de la prima durante un
Universal
periodo
life is flexible,
especificado.
especially if you're in Canada, it could be
Universal
level
Life
or
o vida
increasing.
universal puede ser flexible.
Or
En
you have the
Canadá, por
premium
ejemplo,
holiday.
puede aumentar. O tenemos la
Whole life
exención de la
endowment
prima
receives
o el
level for
holiday
a specified period.
Durante un periodo
or for life.
especificado o de por vida.
Length of coverage.
El tiempo
Term
de
is temporary.
cobertura
Universal life can
es
be temporary,
temporal.
but
El
generally
seguro de
what we
vida
see
universal
is
puede ser
coverage for the
temporal,
whole
pero
life.
por lo general cubre la vida completa de la persona.
Death benefits. It's a
Beneficios al
level
morir,
amount
esta
for
es
the
una
other products, but in
cantidad
universal life,
nivelada
it
para
could be
los
level
otros
amount or
productos,
increasing.
pero aquí puede ser un monto
Amount on
que
surrender.
aumenta.
Typically for term, you don't have anything.
Típicamente, no
Universal
tenemos
life
que
is what's in
pagar
your
nada
account
a
minus the
término,
surrender charges.
sino lo
But
que
remember,
está en la
after 7 to
cuenta,
10 years, there are no
menos los
surrender charges
gastos,
typically.
pero después de 10 años ya
It's
no hay
transparent.
esos cargos.
The other
Es
products are not.
transparente, los otros productos no lo son.
And price-wise, it's in
Y en
between
términos de
expensive
precio,
of a term.
está
If you look
entre
at term as the least
el
expensive,
costo de
endowment
un
is the most
depósito a
expensive,
plazo
this would
y
fall in the
la
middle.
más costosa. Esto es justamente un
Now we're going to
término
talk about
medio en
tax
costos.
compliance.
Y hablemos ahora del cumplimiento fiscal.
Goodness, I really got to move. Okay. Key advantage, we've spoken
Es
about
una
this
ventaja clave.
ad nauseum,
Ya hablamos
about
de
how
esto
this
hasta
is
el
a real
cansancio.
critical part. You
Esto
want
realmente es
the
una parte
policy to
crítica.
remain
Queremos que la
classified
póliza
as an
se
insurance
mantenga
policy.
clasificada como una póliza
Some
de
tax
seguro.
authorities
Algunas autoridades
recognize
fiscales
that this could be open
reconocen
to
que
abuse.
esto
People would
puede
just be hiding
prestarse
their
a
investments
abuso, que gente
in something that
oculta
looks like
sus
universal life. So what they've done
en
is they've
Universal Life o
created
seguro de vida
a
universal.
test
Entonces crearon una
that has
prueba,
to
un
be done
examen que tiene que tomar
every year. In fact, it's
todos
every
los
month it
años.
should be
De hecho,
done
todos los
more
meses
correctly.
hay que hacerlo en una forma
And this
correcta cada
line
mes.
tells you
Y esta
it's a
línea le
prescribed
dice,
line. We're not going to get into that today. It's pretty
no vamos a
technical.
entrar en esto
But
porque
it's a
esto es muy
prescribed
técnico,
line
pero
that tells
es
you
una
if you
línea
go
que
over
nos
that
dice, si usted
line,
excede
the
esa
policy
línea,
is
la
non-exempt and now
póliza
gets
no
treated as
está
an investment
exenta y ahora se
product
tratará
and
como
no
producto
longer
de
enjoys
inversión y
the tax
dejará de
benefits.
disfrutar de los beneficios fiscales.
In Canada, if you cross
En
the line, you
Canadá,
have
si
2
usted
months to
cruza
get it
la
back
línea,
on
tiene
side.
2
In
meses
some other
para
jurisdictions, once you
corregirlo. En
cross
otras
the line,
jurisdicciones, una vez que
that's
cruza
it.
la línea,
you
ya
can't come back.
no puede echar para
It's all,
atrás.
it'll never be insurance again.
Nunca será seguro nuevamente, sino se tratará como
Some of
inversión.
I gave some example of countries that have
Algunos países
some of these lines, like US, I
tienen
said,
algunas de
Canada,
estas líneas, como
UK,
Estados
Japan,
Unidos, Canadá,
Latin
Reino
American
Unido,
countries like
Japón,
Mexico and Chile as
países
well.
latinoamericanos como México y Chile también tienen estas líneas divisorias.
We've talked about all of this.
Bueno, ya hemos
The
hablado
test
de
in
todo
Canada is
esto.
called the exempt
La
test
prueba en
policy.
Canadá
They
se
just changed it
llama
this year.
la
They've had these
póliza
rules in
de
effect
exención.
since the
Estas
80s.
reglas están en
And
vigor
then what
desde los
happened was
años
they decided
80
they've had
y
enough
decidieron
because
que ya era
people were finding
suficiente
ways to
porque la
actually
gente
abuse
estaba
the exempt test.
buscando
Agents
la
get very
forma
creative.
de abusar de
And so they
estas
introduced some
pruebas.
new
Los agentes son muy
rules effective
creativos,
January
se
1st, 2017.
introdujeron
They
nuevas
grandfathered anything that
reglas,
was issued before that, though.
y,
In the States, you have
en
3
Estados
major
Unidos
tests.
ustedes tienen
The
tres pruebas
guideline premium test, the
fundamentales, la
cash value
prueba
accumulation test, and something called the non-modified endowment contract. You only have to pass one of them. So now we're getting into towards the end of the presentation, which is good. I've got 3.5 minutes. So sales application. I'm going to go through a few scenarios. And I'm going to add one scenario at the end that I think might be applicable to Colombia. We're going to look at an option A policy, payment for 20 years. We're going to look at option B, payment for 20 years. We're going to look at a variable death benefit where the person's trying to dump in as much as they can. And then we're going to look at one private placement. So here's the key thing here I want you to look at. This is what you need to generate for your clients. We're also going to show it graphically. This is critical. This is going to show what the policy is going to do. This is called an illustration system. You cannot sell this product without an effective illustration system. None of this should be unfamiliar to you now, I hope. Let's just take one line. You start with your premium. This premium charge here represents actually a percentage of this premium. So in this particular case, and this just shows you how you can price it. Remember I mentioned the administrative expense was $10 to $15? In this particular case, the company said, we're not going to charge an administrative expense. We'll just take it all out of this here. we'll take it all out of the premium as a percent. In this case, I believe that's 6%. Okay, anytime you put in premium, 6% is going towards expenses. Okay? These are the MERs, management expense ratio, the spread on the fund. I think that's 75 basis points is what we used here. Here's the key thing I want you to notice. Premiums, you subtract off this, subtract off that, there's nothing there. You subtract off your cost of insurance, and you add your interest credit, right? And you're going to end up with this number here at the end for the fund. Okay? I'm going to move along faster now. This is a graphical representation of what we just showed. Main thing here, this is the level death benefit, $250,000. And as I said, when you get here, you're going to actually maintain, so when you get to this part here, you're going to actually maintain a little spread between the fund value and the death benefit to keep it classified as insurance. Option B, I'm going to go a little faster. I've seen 50 seconds because I do want to have time for questions. So this is just option B, and all of this is familiar to you. This is not a blip. This is because we should have probably moved this up more. That's just encroaching on there. Okay? All right? And this line here, just so you're aware, represents the premiums paid to date. So now I'm going to move along even faster. This is what a lot of people use it for as well. And this is a maximum pay. So what they've done here is they've dumped in 7 years worth of premiums. And what we've done is we've made sure that this is compliant from a US perspective. And I've actually got the US tax compliant. I was hoping to go through it, but these generally represent lines where you have to be under. So these are the tax compliance lines. Remember, you generate a line, you just want to be less than that line all the time. And then the last one I want to get to, and that's the graph. This one I really do want to get to. And this is the private placement. And I want to show you here an example. A client wishes to pass on some shares in a tax-effective manner. So what they've done is they're going to dump all of this into a fund. And a lot of sometimes these policies are placed in offshore jurisdictions because one, they don't have the exempt test line that we talked about. Two, the capital rules are better for the insurance company. And three, you have access to other currencies in those markets. Some people want access to currencies other than your native currency. The main thing I want to show you here is take a look at this. So they've dumped in $3 million, and we have quite a few clients like this. We consult to many companies that have these types of products. Remember I said before that there's no surrender charges because you're going to take out something right at the beginning? So this here, we're going to take out 1%. That's going to cover all our acquisition expenses. The agent's going to get paid as a portion of this. That's why you see no admin charges here. There's the cost of insurance charges we spoke about. But notice they're not paying anything else. And notice here, what's happening is by the end, this thing is going to mature at $10 million. And that's the graph. There's one last thing before I go to questions really quickly here. And that is the following. Another sales application that you can use that was actually used in Canada and it was actually became very successful is, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the company called Primerica. So Primerica gained a lot of popularity, certainly in the United States and Canada during the 80s, because they said, well, why are you paying all this money to life insurance? Buy term, invest the rest. Okay? Not a bad concept for people who need temporary protection. My only issue with that is when you need insurance most is when that insurance has expired under term. Especially terms, a lot of term policies are priced with extremely steep premium rate curves. They make it virtually impossible to be able to afford the renewal premiums unless you go through the wild underwriting, the great underwriting stories that we heard from the two very good presenters to start. So one thing you could do with this is you can call this buy term for life and have a side fund equal a side fund for your fund. That's like option B. But that's how you can market it. You're going to buy term for life and have a side fund for investments. That's the main thing I wanted to cover here. And there is, sorry, one last point. I think I made it before. One critical thing for a policy like this or a product like this, you have to train the agents. When I launched one of these products, and I am really this old, back in 1990, what happened was I had to go out and train the agents. And if you don't train the agents, this will not sell. It doesn't matter how good it is. They have to fully understand it. And you have to, and keeping in line with the technology-based theme of this conference, you have to supply them with the technology for it. Technology along the lines of illustrations, what I showed before. Okay?
On
Usted
the
habló
policyholder to choose a
acerca
fund
de la
and choose the
libertad
risk,
de que el
right?
tenedor de la
But
póliza
in some
escogiera su riesgo, pero en
countries like
algunos
in Mexico,
países como en
where
México,
Solvency II has already taken place, the reserves
las
or
reservas
the fund,
o el fondo,
the fund value
el valor
is
del
inside the
fondo
reserve.
está
And there are some
dentro de la
very specific
reserva
limits and
y hay
some
límites
specific
muy
assets in
específicos
which
sobre
those reserves
ciertos
can be invested.
activos donde
So,
esas
is
reservas
there
se
any
pueden
argument to
invertir.
tell the
¿Hay
regulator
algún argumento para decirle al
to
regulador
let the policyholder choose
que el
their own risk and funds?
asegurado
So that's an
elija su
excellent
propio
question.
riesgo y sus fondos? Bueno, excelente
The
pregunta.
constraints, the main
Las
thing that we've seen for
restricciones, lo
any
más
type of product
importante que hemos visto para cualquier tipo
innovation in
de
any
innovación de
countries,
producto en
and I
cualquier
think you heard at
país,
the beginning I've
y
worked in
creo que
quite a few different
ustedes
countries,
oyeron que
has
yo he
always
trabajado
been
en
the
varios
regulator.
países, siempre ha sido el
There are
regulador.
one thing the regulator looks for,
Una
you know
cosa
as
que el
well as I
regulador
do.
busca, y
The
ustedes lo
regulator
saben
wants
tanto
to
como yo, el
ensure
regulador
that there's
quiere
enough
asegurarse de que haya
funds on hand
suficientes
to pay the
fondos
policyholder.
disponibles para pagarle al
By virtue
asegurado.
of offering
En
more
virtud
funds,
de ofrecer
I
más
don't see
fondos,
how
yo no veo
Solvency
cómo
II, how you violate a Solvency II
¿Cómo
framework for that.
estarán violando
Okay?
Solvency
Especially if you
II?
keep within the principles of it.
Especialmente si se
Right?
mantiene
So
de
that's one.
acuerdo con
Let's
sus
just,
principios. Eso es
the
una
two
cosa.
concepts here. One is,
Entonces, los
I
dos
want to address the
conceptos son,
fact that the
primero, quiero
regulator
abordar el hecho de que el
wants to
regulador
ensure there's
quiere
enough funds.
asegurarse de que
And
haya
you can
suficientes fondos.
show them, you have to
Y
prove
usted
to
les
them that when you
tiene
do
que
this
probar
with
que
these other
cuando
funds,
usted
you're going to
hace
have the
esto con
requisite
nosotros
funds
fondos
available.
va a tener los
Okay?
fondos
The
necesarios a la
second one, and more
disposición.
important,
El
which we haven't
segundo punto
spoken
y
about,
más importante que
there
no
has
hemos
been articles
tratado.
written, if you ever
Se han
Google
escrito
articles written about
artículos, si
the
ustedes
cycle of
entran a
poverty
Google y
and how some people firmly
buscan el
believe
ciclo de
in order to
pobreza,
exit the cycle
para
of
poder
poverty,
salir
you
del
need to
ciclo de
have a
pobreza
well-defined or a good insurance
necesitamos
framework.
un marco
People
de
have to buy
seguros muy
insurance.
bueno. La
If
gente
you
tiene
look
que
at
comprar
countries that are
seguros. Si vemos los
stuck in
países que
poverty,
están
you will
atascados
see
en
they
la
do
pobreza,
not
verán
have
que
a
esas
well-defined
personas no
insurance framework.
tienen un
I
marco
would
de
submit to
referencia
you,
bien definido de
one
seguros. Yo les
is,
diré
it's
que,
not
en
just the
primer
regulators
lugar,
you need
no
to
se
speak to in
trata
this particular
solamente de
case.
hablar con
It's
los
the
reguladores en
politicians
ese
who
caso, sino
influence
los
the regulators
políticos que
who you need to
influyen
speak
sobre
to.
los
You want to
reguladores.
show how this is going
Queremos
to benefit
demostrarles que
people
esto
in the
va a
long run.
beneficiar a
It
las
benefits the
personas en el largo
financial
plazo,
services industry.
beneficia a la
It has a
industria de servicios
socio-economic
financieros,
benefit.
tiene un
If it
beneficio
has any of those two
socioeconómico.
benefits,
Y
this
si
is going to
tiene
lead to
estos
more
dos
employment,
beneficios,
which
esto
ultimately
generará
leads to a
más
healthier
empleo
economy.
y en
I
última
know I'm speaking
instancia
very
una
grandiose,
economía
but
más
these are all
saludable.
little steps that
Estos
help.
son pequeños
I
pasos
know
que ayudan a ello.
I will admit, it's a lot
Tengo
easier
que
said than
admitir
done,
que es
and this is
mucho
not
más fácil
something that when you
decirlo que
talk to the
hacerlo.
regulator
Y no es algo que
Monday
cuando
night
uno
or
habla con
Monday
los
evening, he's
reguladores
coming
el
back to you
lunes en la
Tuesday with
noche,
an
el
answer.
martes va a
This
venir
is
a darle
going to
una
take
respuesta.
months, if
Esto va a
not
tomar
years, to
meses
do.
o
But
años
we
lograrlo.
have seen it
Pero
done.
hemos visto
A
que sí se
classic
ha
case
hecho.
of the
Un
regulator
caso
moving
clásico
is in
de que el
Bermuda, as a matter of
regulador
fact,
cambió es en
where they've
Bermudas,
just introduced a
donde
completely new
acaban de
regulatory framework,
introducir un
which
marco
is in
regulador.
line with Solvency II. They have equivalents under Solvency II. I think you're familiar with that. Seeking equivalents under Solvency II. Bermuda has obtained equivalents under Solvency II, yet they are able to offer all these funds. Does that help at all? Sorry, I can't give you a perfect solution, but that's my recommendation. Is that it? Thank you. Thank you very much.